The flash of explosion ripped through the station's hull, sending Commander Elowen Nazari tumbling through the vacuum of space. 3 minutes of oxygen left. 2 minutes until the neural implant in her skull would transmit everything she knew to the enemy. One chance to save humanity. She hadn't asked for this responsibility. Nobody would. Earth's last ambassador to a galaxy that had unified against mankind in unprecedented cooperation. Cooperation born purely from fear. As the frigid void seeped through microfractures in her suit, Elowen remembered the briefing that had changed. Everything. It's not logical, Admiral Verost had explained 3 months earlier, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of thousands of alien vessels amassing at the edge of the solar system. We've only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. We control 18 systems. They control thousands. Yet they're treating us like we're an extinction-level threat. The assembled Joint Chiefs nodded grimly in the bunker, 40 levels beneath what remained of Geneva. Earth's surface had become nearly uninhabitable after the first strikes. Most of humanity now lived in underground megacities or off-world colonies. Their coalition includes 37 distinct species, continued Intelligence Director Kalia. Species that have been at war with each other for millennia. Something about us terrifies them enough to overcome those ancient hatreds. Elowen had been chosen for the diplomatic mission because of her unique neural architecture, a rare mutation that allowed her to process information at unprecedented speeds and recall it with perfect fidelity. The implant they'd placed at the yard base of her skull could store the entirety of human history, culture, science, and military tactics. She was Earth's ultimate ambassador and final fallback plan. If diplomacy failed, the implant would transmit its contents to friendly receivers. If those were compromised, it would self-destruct, taking her with it rather than allowing the information to fall into enemy hands. And now, spinning through the wreckage of Diplomatic Station Epsilon, that self-destruct sequence had been activated. Elowen deployed her emergency stabilizers, small thrusters that slowed her tumble. Through the crystalline debris field that had once been the station, she caught glimpses of the massive Vylari dreadnought that had opened fire without warning during negotiations. Admiral Projects of the Vylari Ascendancy had seemed reasonable at first. 7 feet tall with iridescent scales and 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern, the Admiral had been designated spokesperson for the Galactic Coalition. "You must understand our position, Commander Nazari," Projects had said hours earlier. "Your species achieved faster than light travel in half the time it took any of ours. Your adaptive capacity and aggression matrix is unprecedented." "We've never initiated conflict beyond our borders," Elowen had countered. "We've defended ourselves proportionally." "That's precisely what terrifies us," Projects had replied, mandibles clicking. "When the Dreth Empire attacked your colony on Titan, you didn't just repel them. You adapted their own weaponry, improved it, and within 2 orbital cycles had pushed them back to their homeworld. No species has ever demonstrated such rapid technological assimilation." Elowen had tried to explain that this adaptability was born from humanity's fractured history, from thousands of years of competing civilizations on a single world. The galaxy had evolved differently. Most species achieved planetary unity before reaching the stars. But the meeting had been a pretense. The decision had already been made. Now, as her oxygen dwindled, Elowen activated her emergency beacon. Not to be rescued. There was no one left to rescue her, but to broadcast what she discovered in the final moments before the station exploded. The real reason the galaxy feared humanity wasn't their adaptability or aggression. It was something far more fundamental, something hidden in humanity's genetic code that not even they understood yet. And as her consciousness began to fade, Elowen realized she might have found a way to end the war. Not through strength of arms, but through the very thing that had made humanity a target. If only she could survive long enough to implement it. Rescue came from the least expected quarter. As Elowen's vision narrowed to pinpoints of fading light, her tumbling form was enveloped in a gelatinous bubble that materialized from seemingly nowhere. Oxygen-rich fluid filled her lungs, shocking her back to consciousness. "Remain calm, Commander." "Nazari," came a melodic, multi-toned voice in her head. I am Mazix, observer for the Ferrum Conclave. We have been monitoring the negotiations. The Ferrum were legendary, a reclusive species rumored to have achieved technological ascendance thousands of years before any other. They rarely intervened, in galactic politics preferring to observe and record from the sidelines. Within the translucent bubble, Elowen could see a luminescent, shifting form with no fixed shape. The Ferrum existed partially in another dimension, it was said, manifesting in this reality as will required. The Coalition believes they know why humans are dangerous, Mazix continued, tendrils of light pulsing with each thought word. They are mistaken, but their fear is not unfounded. As the bubble accelerated away from the debris field, Elowen's implant continued its countdown. I have 90 seconds before this device kills me. She projected the thought urgently. Already disabled, Mazix responded. Your neural architecture interests us. It confirms our suspicions. The bubble phased through the hull of what appeared to be a small vessel hiding in the shadow of a nearby asteroid. Inside, Elowen found herself in a chamber that defied conventional physics. Spaces opening into impossibly larger areas, surfaces shifting between solid and permeable states. What suspicions? Elowen asked, as the oxygenated gel was extracted painlessly from her lungs. Mazix's form condensed into something vaguely humanoid. The Galactic Coalition believes humans are dangerous because you adapt quickly. This is a symptom, not the cause. The true reason is that humans are the only naturally occurring chimeric species in the known galaxy. Mazix activated a holographic display showing human DNA alongside various alien genetic codes. Your DNA contains fragments from at least 8 non-human sources. Ancient viral integrations, mysterious donor species long extinct, and something else. Something we've only seen in our own archives of the precursors. The precursors, mythical beings said to have seeded the galaxy with life billions of years ago. Impossible, Elowen whispered. Your mitochondria, your cellular energy sources. They're not originally human, Mazix continued. This is common knowledge in your biology. But what your science hasn't discovered is that these energy organelles contain quantum entanglement properties. Your cells communicate across space-time barriers in ways that defy conventional physics. The implication stunned Elowen. Are you saying humans are artificial? Not artificial. Evolved, but with assistance. Your species appears to have been curated. When humans enter states of extreme stress or creativity, your neural patterns generate quantum resonance fields. The Coalition species can sense these fields subconsciously. It triggers primal fear responses they don't understand. Elowen processed this revelation with her enhanced cognition. The implant, it contains all human knowledge. If what you're saying is true, could the database hold information about our origins we haven't recognized? Precisely why I rescued you, Mazix confirmed. The implant contains more than just information. The crystalline matrix storing the data resonates with your unique neural patterns. Given the right conditions, you could access knowledge not explicitly recorded, but embedded in the pattern relationships. A plan began forming in Elowen's mind. The Galactic Coalition wants to eradicate humanity because they fear what we might become. But if we could demonstrate what we actually are, a dangerous gambit, Mazix cautioned. The Coalition believes extermination is their only safe option. Admiral Prozix launched the preemptive strike against the station because the final authorization for galactic-scale genocide has already been given. Outside the ship's dimensional windows, Elowen could see the Coalition fleet beginning to move toward Earth's coordinates. How long do we have? She asked. Their main fleet will reach Earth in 73 hours. Several advanced strike forces are already en route to your colony worlds. Elowen closed her eyes, accessing the vast repository in her mind. Then we need to reach the quantum fold anomaly at Proxima Centauri. Mazix's form rippled with surprise. You know of this? Not consciously until now, Elowen replied, equally surprised by her own words. But something in the implant, something in me, knows it's where we need to go. The Ferrum vessel slipped, through space-time like a stone skipping across water, each dimensional jump bringing them closer to Proxima Centauri. Elowen spent the journey connected to a consciousness amplifier Mazix had constructed, allowing her to delve deeper into the implant's database than ever before. "It's fascinating," Mazix observed, floating beside her as patterns of light and information swirled around them. "Your neural architecture isn't just retrieving data, it's creating new connections, assembling fragments into coherent structures that weren't explicitly programmed." Elowen navigated through conceptual landscapes, representing humanity's collective knowledge. "There's a pattern here, something about Proxima Centauri. Humanity's first extrasolar colony wasn't chosen randomly. The first colonists had reported anomalous dreams, unexpected flashes of insight. The scientific community had attributed these phenomena to the psychological effects of being the first humans to live under an alien sun, but the implant was revealing a different story. "The quantum fold," Elowen murmured. "It's a dimensional aperture, a place where the barriers between realities thin." Mazix's form pulsed with excitement. The precursors were known to create such apertures, nexus points where information could flow between dimensions. As they approached Proxima Centauri, alarms blared throughout the ship. 3 Coalition destroyers had detected their approach and moved to intercept. Massive energy weapons, charged, targeting systems locking onto the small Farim vessel. "They cannot detect us unless," Mazix began. "Unless they're specifically looking for Farim technology," Elowen finished. "The Coalition knows about you, about your interest in humanity." The first salvo of energy beams narrowly missed, as Mazix executed an impossible maneuver, phasing the ship partially out of conventional spacetime. "I cannot maintain combat operations and reach the anomaly," Mazix communicated urgently. "My vessel is designed for observation, not confrontation." Elowen accessed tactical data from the implant. "The third planet in the system. It's magnetic. Field disrupts targeting systems. We can use it for cover." They dove toward the rust-colored world, skimming its upper atmosphere as Coalition ships pursued. Superheated plasma trailed behind them as friction built up against the ship's dimensional barriers. "The anomaly is located at these coordinates," Elowen directed, sending the information directly to the ship's navigation system. Inside the abandoned mining facility, Proxima Centauri III had been established as humanity's first mining colony, then mysteriously abandoned 50 years later. Official records cited depleted resources, but the implant revealed classified reports of inexplicable phenomena, tools that assembled themselves overnight, miners who solved complex equations despite no mathematical training. The Farim vessel crashed through the protective dome of the abandoned facility, skidding across the dusty floor before coming to rest against a massive drilling apparatus. Outside, the Coalition ships held position, unwilling to risk ground operations without reinforcements. "We have perhaps 20 minutes before they deploy ground forces," Mazix warned, helping Elowen from the damaged ship. The mining facility was dark except for emergency lighting that had somehow remained operational for decades. Elowen moved with certainty through the labyrinthine corridors, guided by information surfacing from the implant. "Here," she said finally, stopping before an ordinary-looking wall. "The anomaly is behind this." Mazix analyzed the wall with sensory appendages. "I detect no opening or mechanism." "It's not mechanically sealed," Elowen replied. "It responds to human neural patterns, specifically to the quantum resonance fields you mentioned." She placed her hand against the cold metal surface and closed, her eyes focusing her thoughts. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, beneath her palm, the solid wall began to ripple like water, molecules rearranging themselves to create an opening. Beyond lay a chamber unlike anything Elowen had ever seen, a perfect sphere with walls composed of what appeared to be liquid light, constantly shifting between colors that had no names in human language. "A precursor interface chamber," Mazix whispered, awe evident in the harmonic tones. "I've only seen depictions in our most ancient archives." In the center of the chamber floated a crystalline structure similar to the one in Elowen's neural implant, but vastly larger and more complex. The implant was designed to resonate with this, Elowen realized, not just to store information but to establish connection. As she stepped toward the central crystal, the entire chamber pulsed in response. The walls began projecting images from human history, not just recorded events but emotional resonances, conceptual leaps, moments of inspiration and creation that had driven human development. "Now I understand," Mezix said softly. "The precursors didn't just influence human evolution, they were creating a bridge." The crystal matrix at the center of the chamber hummed with increasing intensity as Elowen approached. Each step she took triggered cascades of light and information across its faceted surface, snippets of human art, mathematical equations, musical compositions, and scientific breakthroughs. "What exactly is this place?" Elowen asked, her voice hushed with awe. Mezix moved in slow circles around the crystal, analyzing its structure. The precursors created nodes throughout the galaxy, quantum information repositories designed to collect and process the developmental patterns of sentient species. "This appears to be one such node, but unlike any I've encountered. It's responding specifically to human patterns," Elowen observed. "More than responding," Mezix corrected. "It's been waiting. Your implant contains a compressed version of human knowledge and experience. This matrix wants to connect with it, to complete a circuit that was designed billions of years ago." Outside the facility, the first coalition dropships were landing. Security monitors showed armored troops deploying in formation, Vylari shock troopers, Dreth heavy weapons specialists, and the insectoid Crix with their advanced sensing equipment. "We're running out of time," Elowen said, watching the feeds. "What happens if I connect with the Matrix?" "Unknown," Mezix admitted. "But the precursors wouldn't have engineered this connection without purpose. Whatever happens, it will be significant." Elowen took a deep breath. "Then we have no choice." She stepped forward and placed both hands on the crystal. Immediately, her consciousness expanded beyond the physical boundaries of her body. The implant at the base of her skull grew warm, establishing resonance with the larger matrix. Images flooded through her mind, not just human history, but the history of Earth itself. The slow dance of continental drift, the rise and fall of countless species, the first primitive humans gazing up at the stars. Then something unexpected. She was seeing through other eyes. Precursor eyes. They had come to early Earth not as conquerors or creators, but as refugees. Their civilization, spanning multiple galaxies, had encountered something they couldn't overcome, a cosmic threat beyond comprehension. They had seeded themselves into the primitive life of Earth, integrating their quantum-entangled molecular structures into the mitochondrial ancestors that would one day power human cells. The precursors hadn't created humanity. They had become humanity. "They hid themselves in our evolutionary path," Elowen gasped, maintaining her connection to the crystal. "Not to control us, but to preserve what they were, to give themselves a second chance in a new form." Mezix's luminescent form pulsed with understanding. "The Coalition senses this precursor resonance in humans without comprehending it. They fear you because, on some level, they recognize what came before." Through the crystal, Elowen could now see the approaching Coalition forces from multiple perspectives simultaneously. She could feel their fear, their determination, their absolute certainty that humanity represented an existential threat. "They're not wrong," she realized. "But not in the way they think. We don't want to conquer them. But human potential, if fully realized, would fundamentally change the established order of the galaxy." The first explosions rocked the facility as Coalition forces began their assault. Mezix's ship, damaged from their landing, couldn't provide escape. "There must be a way to show them," Elowen said desperately. "To make them understand we're not a threat, that we could be partners." As if in response to her thought, the crystal matrix began to reconfigure, extending filaments of light that wrapped around her arms and spread across her body. The implant in her skull fully activated, drawing on capabilities that had remained dormant until this moment. Mezix, she said urgently. Get to the communication array in the north section. When I give the signal, broadcast on all coalition frequencies. The Farum hesitated. What are you attempting? A connection. The precursors embedded themselves in humanity to evolve into something new. Not to dominate, but to transcend. I'm going to show the coalition what that really means. As Mezix departed, Elowen surrendered completely to the crystal's embrace. Her consciousness expanded further, touching minds across the facility. She could feel the coalition soldiers, their determination and fear. Beyond them, she sensed the fleet commanders in orbit, the political leaders who had ordered humanity's extinction. And then, as the crystal's integration reached completion, she felt something else. Billions of human minds across 18 star systems, connected through the quantum entanglement properties in their very cells. A network that had always existed, dormant, waiting for the right moment. That moment was now. The coalition forces breached the inner sanctum just as Elowen completed the connection. Elite Villari commandos stormed through the doorway, multi-spectrum, targeting systems locking onto her crystalline-encased form. Behind them came Admiral Projects himself, 6 eyes widening at the sight before him. Stand down, human, he ordered, mandibles clicking nervously. Disconnect from that device immediately, Elowen's voice echoed strangely, harmonics layering upon each other as she spoke. Admiral, you need to understand what's happening. What humanity really is. We understand perfectly, Projects replied, signaling his troops to establish a containment perimeter. Your species has discovered precursor technology and intends to use it against the coalition. Not against you, Elowen corrected. With you, Mezix, now. Throughout the facility, buried communication arrays activated, broadcasting on all frequencies used by coalition forces. But instead of words or data, the transmission carried something unprecedented. The quantum resonance pattern of Elowen's enhanced consciousness amplified through the precursor crystal. Across the room, a Villari commando dropped his weapon, mandibles going slack. A Dreth weapons specialist fell to her knees. One by one, the coalition forces experienced something they had never encountered before: direct neural quantum contact with a human mind. Through the resonance cascade, Elowen shared everything: humanity's struggles and triumphs, their capacity for both destruction and creation, and most importantly, the truth about their connection to the precursors, not as masters utilizing tools but as unwitting inheritors of an ancient legacy. We carry their pattern, Elowen explained, her words flowing directly into their minds. Not their ambitions or their power, just the potential for connection. What you sense in us and fear is not aggression but possibility. Admiral Project staggered backward, overwhelmed by the input. How are you doing this? Our neural shields should prevent any form of telepathic intrusion. It's not telepathy, Elowen explained. It's quantum entanglement at the cellular level. Your shields can't block it because it doesn't travel through space. It exists simultaneously in both locations. Beyond the mining facility, across the Proxima Centauri system, coalition ship commanders reported the same phenomenon. The resonance cascade had spread to every coalition force in the system. Further still, through the quantum network that connected all human minds, colonies throughout human space were experiencing spontaneous awakening to their interconnected nature. The precursors faced extinction and chose transformation instead, Elowen continued, the crystal's light pulsing with her words. They didn't hide their knowledge in vaults or weapons. They encoded it into life itself, creating the potential for a new kind of galactic community. Mezix returned to the chamber, moving cautiously between the disoriented coalition troops. The signal has reached the coalition flagship. Their council of elders is demanding to speak with you. On the holographic display that materialized before her, Elowen saw the assembled council, representatives of all 37 species that had united against humanity. Their expressions ranged from outrage to awe. What you have done is unprecedented, spoke the Galaxian High Counselor, their crystalline features refracting light as they moved. This forced connection violates every protocol of interspecies contact. You are about to violate the ultimate protocol. Elowen countered calmly. The extinction of an entire sentient species without true understanding. The resonance cascade. Will fade, she continued. I'm not forcing a permanent connection, but now you've experienced firsthand what humanity is, not what you feared we might be. The High Counselor was silent for a long moment. The information you've shared, if accurate, it changes our understanding of galactic history. The precursors were not destroyed as we believed. They evolved, Elowen corrected, as all life does, and now humanity stands at a similar threshold, not of dominance, but of transformation. We don't want to conquer the galaxy, we want to connect it. As she spoke, the crystal matrix began to reconfigure itself again, extending tendrils of light outward to form a spherical network around her, a miniature representation of the galaxy, with pulsing nodes at specific coordinates. These are the other nodes, Elowen realized, understanding flowing through the connection. Precursor interfaces scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting for activation. Admiral Projects approached cautiously, studying the holographic map. Many of these nodes are located in neutral space or uninhabited systems, but some— He paused, mandibles clicking in concern. Some are located within the sovereign territories of coalition worlds. Not by accident, Mazix interjected. The precursors placed them where they would be most accessible to multiple species. They weren't building an empire, they were building a network. The resonance cascade was beginning to subside, its energy spent. As the connection faded, Elowen could sense the coalition's fear diminishing, replaced by cautious curiosity. Not universal acceptance, many still harbored suspicion, but enough had changed to create an opening. Stand down your forces, Elowen said to the council. Let us show you what we can accomplish together. 3 months after the standoff at Proxima Centauri, Elowen stood in the newly constructed Grand Forum on the neutral planetoid Asteria. Representatives from all coalition species gathered alongside human delegates in the massive amphitheater, its transparent dome revealing the spectacular rings of the gas giant it orbited. The journey to this moment had been neither simple nor without sacrifice. Hardliners within the coalition had attempted a coup rather than accept peace with humanity. Earth's military had struggled to trust the sudden diplomatic overtures after years of existential warfare. But the resonance cascade had created a foundation. Fragile, but real. The Treaty of Asteria marks more than the end of hostilities, Elowen began, her voice carrying across the chamber. It represents our first steps toward a fundamentally new understanding of our place in the cosmos. At her side stood Admiral Projects, who had become an unexpected ally. After experiencing the resonance cascade, he had petitioned the Coalition Council to reconsider their extinction protocol. His advocacy had cost him his military rank, but gained him a position as lead diplomat to humanity. Commander Nazari speaks. Truth, Projects addressed the assembly. For millennia, our civilizations have approached space as territory to be claimed, resources to be exploited, and power to be consolidated. The precursor legacy offers a different paradigm. Behind them, a holographic display showed the continued activation of precursor nodes throughout the galaxy. 17 had been successfully brought online since the events at Proxima Centauri, each one extending the quantum network and revealing new insights into the precursor's vision. Mazix floated nearby, serving as neutral observer for the proceedings. The revelation of Ferrum involvement had initially caused consternation among coalition species, but their ancient reputation for wisdom had helped legitimize the peace process. What we're building is unprecedented, Elowen continued. Not a political alliance or economic partnership, but a conscious galactic community. The quantum resonance network allows us to share not just information but perspective, to truly understand one another across the boundaries of biology and culture. The network couldn't and shouldn't replace normal communication. That had been an early lesson. Constant connection would obliterate the beautiful diversity of thought that made each species unique. Instead, the network served as a foundation for deeper understanding when needed. a repository of shared wisdom and a method for galactic-scale collaboration on existential challenges. We still maintain our sovereignty, projects reassured the more conservative delegates. Our cultural identities remain intact, but when faced with challenges that threaten us all, cosmic anomalies, resource depletion, or the theoretical extragalactic threats, the precursors themselves fled. We can now function as a unified intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. Not all species had embraced the new paradigm. Several coalition members had withdrawn from the alliance entirely, retreating behind heavily fortified borders. Others maintained observer status, cautiously evaluating the development of the network before committing. The path forward will not be without obstacles, Elowen acknowledged. Millennia of evolution have designed us to prioritize our own kind, to fear difference, to compete rather than cooperate. These instincts served us well in our development, but they cannot define our future. As she spoke, Elowen activated her neural implant, projecting a small-scale resonance field that connected the delegates in a moment of shared consciousness. Not invasive or controlling, but an invitation to experience unity while maintaining individuality. This is what the precursors understood, she said softly as the connection bloomed. Not domination through power, but transcendence through connection. They didn't hide themselves in humanity to conquer the galaxy through us. They sought to evolve beyond the limitations of individual existence while preserving the precious gift of personal perspective. Throughout the chamber, delegates experienced the unique sensation of maintaining their individual consciousness, while simultaneously perceiving through the awareness of others. Dreth representatives felt the crystalline thought patterns of the Galaxians. Villari experienced the flowing consciousness of the aquatic Melosians, and all of them, for just a moment, understood what it meant to be human, to carry within them the unexpected legacy of the precursors. When the connection faded, the chamber remained silent for several heartbeats. Then one by one the delegates rose to their feet, appendages or support columns, a wave of affirmation spreading across species that had been deadlocked in suspicion just months earlier. The Treaty of Asteria was ratified unanimously by those present. Later that evening, as celebration echoed throughout the diplomatic quarter, Elowen stood alone on an observation deck, watching the gas giant's stormy surface churn beneath Asteria's orbit. "You have accomplished something remarkable," Mazik said, manifesting beside her. "Few individuals change the course of galactic history." Elowen smiled faintly. "I was just the bridge. The potential was always there, in humanity, in the coalition, species in the legacy the precursors left for us all. Nevertheless," Mazik insisted, "your choice to share rather than dominate was pivotal. Many in your position would have weaponized the discovery." It was true. The precursor technology could have given humanity an insurmountable advantage. The ability to influence minds across vast distances, to coordinate military actions with perfect synchronicity, to access knowledge beyond their developmental stage. "Still have so much to learn," Elowen said, gazing up at the stars visible through the transparent ceiling. "About the precursors, about ourselves, about what we might become together. The greatest journeys begin with a single step," Mazik observed as night deepened over the diplomatic station. News of the treaty spread across the galaxy. On Earth, celebrations erupted from the underground cities as the perpetual war footing finally relaxed. On coalition homeworlds, reactions ranged from jubilation to cautious optimism to entrenched suspicion. But something fundamental had changed. The possibility of extinction had been replaced by the potential for transcendence. Fear had given way to curiosity. The question was no longer whether humanity would survive, but what they and their new allies might become together. The war that had threatened to consume the galaxy had ended not through superior firepower or strategic brilliance, but through the most powerful force in the universe: connection. One human had shown the way, but all species would walk the path together, toward a future limited only by their collective imagination. And somewhere, in the quantum patterns that connected them all, the last echoes of the precursors witnessed their greatest creation taking its first steps toward fulfilling a billion-year plan, not as conquerors but as inheritors of a legacy beyond comprehension. The war was over. The journey had just begun.